Yo, 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 hello, and welcome to the 1218 Show. This is your host, Mike Wilson, and this is episode 4. So, thanks for sticking with me this far. I'm looking forward to doing many more. So, let's get started. Let's get right into it. First off, I want to, once again, as always, promote my little book here. So if you haven't bought it yet, check it out. It's on Amazon. Everybody Knows by Mike Wilson. If you haven't looked yet, you can get it. I put a link on it now to on the website. So if you go to the1218show.com, you'll see the links to where you can get the podcast. So you can get it on Apple Podcast, you can watch it on YouTube, or you can stream it right there from the website. But the website is the1218show.com. Links on there to the book, to both books actually. There's another book too, so it'll take you straight to Amazon where you can buy the work. That's the news on that right now. The website is up and coming. I'm working on it. It's getting better. Working on the design and all that. I got a logo done last week. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it, so check it out. I'm pretty excited about it. I had it professionally done, so that's exciting for me. I want to address I had a question somebody posted on the YouTube about in episode 2. I explained why I chose the 1218 Show as the title of my podcast. That being aligned with my birthday and the many celebrities and whatnot that are also born on December 18th. So the question somebody posted was, who of all those of that list of celebrities, who would be the one that I would like to interview the most? And I thought about it, and I've thought about it a lot for 2 weeks, and I'll tell you, I would any of them. I mean, all of them are so interesting, and so just they've had such great careers and people to look up to and aspiring, I think. And I think they have interesting stories and whatnot. But if I had to choose, it would come down to between Brad Pitt or Christina Aguilera. Brad Pitt because, I mean, obviously he's a superstar, which would be cool. But every interview I've seen him in, he just seems so calm and pleasant and just somebody that I feel like I would enjoy conversing with. Just somebody that really seems to just... And I don't know, he might be burning up inside, but every time I've seen him, I feel like there's an inner peace with the guy. And he's, obviously with the tabloids and stuff, we know that he's splashed around and done some things, had different relationship issues, and with his, he's got children and all kinds of stuff that the press as a whole takes and runs with it. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. I would actually just like to sit and talk to him, and he really seems to handle that kind of stuff well, and I think that's fascinating. His career is awesome. I just feel like he would be one that I would really enjoy sitting and talking to for a few minutes. And Christina Aguilera would be the other choice. I don't know which one I'd rather, but Christina blew up at the height of one of the greatest periods of entertainment history, really. I mean, right around the turn of the century, those late 90s, early 2000s, when it was just a blast of amazing entertainment. The stage shows they put on, the music they recorded, and she has such a powerhouse voice. I had a big crush on her back then. I mean, you had a crush on everyone, but of course, Christina, every time she put out a video, I couldn't wait to watch it. So I think that she would be neat to talk to too. I would like to really sit and pick her brain about how she viewed it all from her perspective, and I would hope that I would like to share with her what it seemed like from our perspective, watching her skyrocket to fame. I don't, it's weird. You wonder if these people have ever sat and had a real conversation and said, what did it look like for you? What did it seem like was going on? I would love to know, because we sit back and sort of think they're kind of like in another stratosphere, like untouchable, kind of mesmerizing. I feel like celebrity has kind of lost that that wall since smartphones, really, the people seem to really break that wall, and they're constantly tweeting, and people just seem to know more about their personal lives and know. And it takes away from it, really. I don't want to know your politics. I don't want to know what your thoughts on whatever the issue of the day is. It takes away from your performance, and I feel like Christina also has done a good job of keeping that her social views away from the spotlight and just focusing on what she does, which is sing songs and perform shows. And I guess she does. She's a judge on one of the singing shows. I can't remember which one it is. There's been so many. I don't think it was Idol. I think it was the not the Masked Singer, but the one where they spin around their chairs once they think they know who it is or whatever. I think Carson Daly even hosted it for a while, if he still does. I don't know. Anyway, so it'll be between those two to answer that question. I would really like to have a conversation with both of them. It would be a lot of fun for me, and obviously I would hope that it would be equally as fun for you if we ever did get a chance to do that. So that's those are my two first choices. It would be one of those two. But I'll tell you, any of the others, which I went through the list on the second episode, would be. I would take any of them any day, and I would like to get them all on here eventually at some point. Maybe even throw a big party one day. Maybe we could have the annual December 18th birthday party somewhere in Hollywood or somewhere, and have them all show up and just have one big bash. It'd be kind of cool. I'm in dream world right now, but that would be fun. Okay, so last week I told you I would tell you the answer to a riddle that I proposed, which was the Lily Pad Riddle. The answer is, so I think we used 30 days as the thing. If you don't remember the riddle, it was, there's a lily pad on a body of water, let's say a pond. On day 1, there's 1 lily pad. Every day that passes, the number of lily pads doubles. So on day 2, there's 2. On day 3, there's 4. On day 4, there's 8, and so on down the line. On day 30, the pond is filled with lily pads. There's no more room for it to double. So on what day was it half full? And the answer to that was day 29, because it doubles every day. So a lot of people, right off the bat, well, it's day 15, or it was, it's, if you work it backwards, though, the answer is day 29. And the purpose of that riddle was that I touched on finance and whatnot, and talking about how much better it is the younger and earlier you start in your life. And that's a perfect example of it. That day 29 to day 30, in the lily pad example, if lily pad equals dollars, that last day or couple days is all the difference in the number of lily pads on the pond. Same thing if you start your investment accounts and putting money away early in life, say age 20 versus age 30, that first 10 years on the back end of it makes an immense amount of difference. I mean, like when I say immense amount of difference, probably in the 7 figures amount of difference. So it's just something to think about. Again, we'll talk more about that when I get finance guys on. But I decided this week that I wanted to tell a story from my bar life. I've got a million of them, and people tend to tell me that they like to hear them and all the crazy stuff that's happened since I've been bartending. So and I'm going to equate that into this little financial discussion. I think that when putting together your little financial plan portfolio, the very first thing. First of all, let's assume you're starting with a clean slate. So let's say you're 16, 18 years old, whatever. Because the very first thing that you want to do is make sure that you do not have any credit card debt or any ridiculous debt like that. There's so many people get in college and they run up their credit cards, and then they're spending their rest of their 20s trying to pay them off, maybe even into their 30s, depending on how bad it got. I know I didn't. I think I put the last year and a half of my school on a credit card, not understanding what student loans were, that kind of thing. Like it was just such a clusterfuck of what, how you're supposed to do financial things, and I've done them all, and I've done them all wrong. So So let's assume you're going to start with a clean slate, no credit card debt, those kinds of things. If you do have credit card debt, then get those paid off. But I think the very, very first thing, a little bit about me, just so you know, I'm kind of a doomsday guy. I'm always planning for the worst, right? I have a bag of votive candles in case the power goes out. I have fresh batteries always. I have a whole box full of fresh batteries. I'm just I've always got canned tuna. I always keep bottled water. Like there's just a few things that and it seems silly, but like I said, I'm a doomsday guy. I've got a backpack that if Manhattan was sinking tomorrow, I could throw on my backpack, and as long as I can get across the Hudson River, once I get to the woods in Pennsylvania, I can walk to the West Coast if I had to, and I'd survive just fine. So that's where I kind of stand on the doomsday stuff. But I think that the very, very first thing you should do, and that everybody should have, is a little cash stash. So what do I mean by that? I actually mean cash, not money in a savings account. Not any other sort of asset or anything. I think you should have a cash stash. So the younger, the smaller. A couple $100, tucked away somewhere. And I started doing this when I lived in New York in 2001, when I think it was 2001 or 2002. I'd have to look up the date, but I'm sure you remember the massive blackout on the East Coast, where New York City and all up and down the East Coast, Eastern Seaboard was blacked out. Somebody flipped a switch in a power plant up north, and it literally blacked out the entire East Coast. And I had to work that night, and so I was at the bar, and because all of the power, literally no power in New York City, was available, there was all the bars, restaurants, whatever. Restaurants were selling what they had because their refrigeration was done. Everybody selling them at a discount because they just had to empty them because everything was going to spoil or rot or whatever within a day if they didn't get rid of it. It was a brutally hot day. I had to work that night, and we, ironically, that morning, our ice machine in the bar that I worked at had broken. So we had a delivery of ice that had just arrived before the blackout, and so we had bags and bags of ice. So once the power went down, and I have a story about that too, which I'll share on another podcast. But when the power went down, we stocked all the beer in the ice bins that we had, and we had ice, and it lasted through till about 2 a.m. was when we finally. I think 2:30 maybe even before we finally called it a night. And we didn't even call it a night because we didn't have cold beer anymore. We called it a night because we ran out. The whole city was out partying. If you weren't, because it was so hot that you couldn't be inside your apartment unless you're just sitting there sweltering, no air conditioning, no nothing. Remember, 0 power. So people were out in the streets, sitting outside, hanging out, doing whatever. If there was a bar that was open, they were open until everything was warm or until they sold out or whatever the case may be. Well, that night when I was behind the bar, people came constantly trying to barter with me because they didn't have any money. And we obviously had to go cash only. You couldn't pay with a credit card. We wouldn't hold your credit card until the next day for you to come back and get it and pay then. There was no credit extended. There was nothing. If you needed to buy something, the only thing you could use was cash. Now, we're all assuming that, that happened once. That'll never happen again. There'll never be a power outage like that again. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will. Who knows? But the point was, if you had cash, and many people did, they were able to go home, open their little secret hiding place, their little fireplace, fire safe box, whatever, pull out a couple of $100 and go out and get what they needed for the next day or two. And it was 2 days before the power was fully restored in the city. So if you didn't have cash, you didn't have access to get anything if you didn't have it. Now that's just one of the reasons, a power outage being one of them. I also think that you could have there's a couple other reasons. I say cash stash. I mean this as an emergency fund, right? So let's say first year, you're 16, 18 years old, put $200 somewhere, tuck it away, and leave that. That's an emergency fund. Don't touch it. It's yours. It's there. Maybe add to it every once in a while. If you scratch off a lottery ticket and win $50, put 20 of it into the cash stash. Let it build up a little bit. I don't know. By the time you're 30 years old, you might have 10 grand sitting there. I don't know what your magic number is. For me, having a cash stash of like 10 grand would be ideal. I don't have that right now. I should. I'm, old enough, but I've made every mistake in the book. But have yourself a little cash stash somewhere hidden. So, and obviously make sure it's locked up, make sure it's in a fireproof safe, something like that. So now, power outage being one of them. Power outage could also be something like, some hacker crashing the entire computer network, all that stuff. So you have no access to your debit cards. Any of these catastrophic things that you read or see movies about that are, if that were to happen, again, I'm a doomsday guy. If that were to happen, you have a little bit of cash in your pocket and you can survive for whatever, make that last for as long as it's needed. So that's step one, I think, for this whole financial thing that we were kind of talking about. You may also need it for maybe a medical thing. Maybe you get a lot of people don't have dental insurance with their job or whatever. So, maybe you need a tooth pulled or a cavity filled or something that, an emergency root canal. And if you go in and they say, and you don't have credit or whatever to pay with it, you could pull into your, I've got the $1,800 right here, and then boom, you've got it. Like, it's nice to have an emergency cash stash, just if necessary. And the final thing is 2008, the market crashed. There were opportunities there to make a shit ton of money if you had money to get into your account. So if on the day that market crashed, if I had my little cash stash of $3,000 or $4,000, I could have ran across the street, made a deposit, transferred into my account, and bought any number of stocks on that particular day, and within a week probably doubled my money, and within a couple of years, made back 10 times what it was. Or maybe, something comes along, you don't know. I mean, any type of business opportunity. But the point is you have a little cash stash set aside for opportunities, for emergencies, and for any, maybe a medical surprise or something like that. Okay, now, I'm already past 15 minutes. I knew that this was going to happen. I wanted to tell you a quick story relating to this, which is what I promised at the beginning. So, years ago, and I'm talking like 15 years ago, I was bartending, I'm working. This guy comes in, and he's drinking beers, and he pays with a 20, and it's an old 20, like a 20 from like the 70s or something. And this was shortly after the new, the big-faced $20 bills had come out. And so he pays with an old one. And then every beer, he would put up a new old 20. And after like the third or fourth one, I mean, he was tipping properly or whatever, but he kept pulling back the change. And so then I was kind of like, are these counterfeit? Because I felt like he was washing his money, But so finally, they were real. And I said, so I finally asked him, I said, where did you get all these old bills? And he said, yeah. He said, I don't really like carrying them around. So that's why I spend them. And I said, well, where did you get them? And he said, he said, well, my job is I clean apartments for recently deceased people that really don't have any family or anything. So if somebody's been reported that they passed away, and they don't have any family or anybody to come and take care of their belongings or whatever, somebody has to do it. And he's like, that's what I do. That's my job. And I said, oh man, that's kind of a downer. He's like, no, it's fine. He's like, I get paid well for it. And he's like, and the beauty is, old people always have a cash stash. And I was like, really? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, old people, especially if they were around during the Depression or whatever, he's like, usually it's in a knitting bag. Sometimes it's behind a loose brick or a board. He's like, but every old person that dies has one. And all you got to do is find it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I was such a mixed moment because I was like, this guy's kind of a fucking scumbag, isn't he? I don't know. It was just kind of weird. So I thought that it was, you take that for what it's worth, but it was kind of a what the fuck moment. Like, how, like, this dude gets a job, gets paid to do it, but he goes in there treasure hunting, essentially. And apparently every single time he comes out with a bundle full of money, cash, coins, something. And I got a strange kick out of that. But I thought that's one of the old bar stories for you. So anyway, that's episode 4. This is the 1218 Show. Check out the website www.the1218show.com. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, and I look forward to the next one. Oh, next week we're going to have a guest on, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, peace, love. Take care of yourself, and support those truckers in Canada. This is I don't want to get too deep into it, but those guys are doing the right thing. Got to fight this Trudeau guy. Anyway, hope all is well, and take care.